The U.S. Defense Secretary McNamara once declared that the U.S. electronic fence was impenetrable by even a mouse. Yet somehow, convoys of the Vietnamese military, carrying thousands of tons of supplies, continued to move normally to support the southern battlefield, and nobody could stop them. The McNamara electronic fence, designed by 47 of America's brightest minds, cost up to $2 billion at the time. Thus, it became a weapon that the U.S. had immense confidence in, intending to cut off the supply line from the north to the south of Vietnam. The most popular and talked about device at that time was referred to as the tropical tree, and it was known as ground surveillance. This was a device the U.S. dropped to pick up ground signals, thanks to its 4 antennae. Every laugh, word, or footstep that made noise on the ground was captured and immediately relayed back to command centers. Within a minute after that, aircraft would be deployed to strike, ensuring that almost no one could escape. As a result, all the supply trucks supporting the southern battlefield had to cease operations and were stuck in a deadlock. The question now was how to solve this problem. The challenge posed by the brainpower of America's 47 greatest geniuses was evident. Whether on foot or in vehicles, there was no hiding, especially considering the need to transport supplies. However, the Vietnamese military eventually discovered the weakness of the ground surveillance by having the engineered troops survey each cargo trip in advance, tying the device's antennae together, which immediately neutralized the product of America's 47 greatest minds and even turned it into a weapon against them. In areas where the Vietnamese troops wanted to clear paths, they would place the tropical tree there and create false signals for American bombs to plow the area. After the area was plowed by the U.S., it just needed to be flattened with a bulldozer. Before any major battles intended to deplete the enemy's strength, they would drop the tropical tree at a pre-selected location and then have trucks drag a large amount of metal through. Where there was no metal, empty barrels were used instead. All the barrels banging together loudly misled the U.S. into thinking a large number of Vietnamese troops were marching there, prompting them to call in airstrike. But the trouble was, after bombing, the command center would receive information about another large convoy passing through the old location. This pattern repeated many times, forcing the U.S. to question which were the real supply convoys and which were diversions created by the Vietnamese military. The more they bombed, the more bewildered they became, uncertain if their efforts were yielding any results or just wasteful expenditure. American pilots were extremely frustrated with the ground information relayed to them because it was mostly incorrect. Even American soldiers joked among themselves that it seemed Vietnam could intervene in their command system, rendering the genius product of America's brightest minds into scrap metal. Yet, that wasn't the end. With a determined effort to block the supply line from the north into South Vietnam, the U.S. military also deployed planes known as Ghosts atop the Truong Son range. These had night vision equipment capable of amplifying still images up to 40,000 times, allowing for the observation of targets in the dark. They also had highly effective sensors that could detect electrical pulses emitted when a gasoline engine operated. All this data was fed into a computer on board the aircraft, which then calculated a firing solution to the target. The remaining task was performed by guns and cannons mounted on the left side of the plane. With meticulous calculations and the ability to pinpoint vehicle locations to the millimeter, the AC-130 Ghost destroyed and damaged many of our vehicles. Despite its precise shooting capabilities, the Truong Son trails back then were very narrow, fitting only one vehicle. If it shot and punctured the tire of one vehicle, the following 100 vehicles would have to stop due to traffic congestion. And when stopped like that, planes in the sky would bomb them, leaving no way to escape, resulting in significant losses of life and resources for the Vietnamese troops. The immediate challenge for Vietnam was figuring out how to continue supplying the southern battlefield under these conditions. If this situation persisted, transporting anything into the area became impossible since the vehicles were interconnected. A single damaged vehicle could result in the entire convoy being compromised. The Vietnamese military quickly invented a solution by digging fishbone paths along the main roads. Any vehicle damaged by aircraft could immediately pull into one of these paths, allowing the rest to continue smoothly and avoid being targeted by U.S. bombs. This was how we countered the most advanced U.S. technology at the time. However, all these methods were only temporary and short-term solutions because, with such advanced technology, supporting the southern battlefield could not meet the requirements set forth. So, how did the Vietnamese military manage to overcome America's cutting-edge electronic devices back then? Well, today's episode of the Dialogue of History must pause here. We thank everyone for their interest and follow-up. Remember to subscribe to Legends of History. For now, goodbye and see you next time.